Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Andy Sokolovich. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development here at the Clinton Regional Development Corporation in Clinton, Iowa. Thank you so much for paying attention in advance as we learn more about water. Sounds like a crazy topic, but when you go into the bathroom, you go into your kitchen and you turn that faucet or you take a shower, water comes out, and Jarrek is the guy who ensures that we have water to support the greater Clinton region. He operates as the superintendent for the Clinton district, and I'm going to let him talk about what he does and then share with you some career opportunities that could be available in the water industry. So thank you again for paying attention. Towards the end, we will open it up for questions. I do really love when you ask questions, so please think about a few while we go through the presentation. So again, my name is Andy. If you need anything, just shout out my name. I'll be sure to help you out. But I'm going to turn it over to Jarrek Lucke, Superintendent of Clinton Operations here at Iowa American Water. Jarrek?
All right. Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate your class inviting me on to do this presentation. I normally just kind of talk through, what water is, what we do in our industry, but, we do need to look at this opportunity because we are essential workers. And so I'm actually very excited to talk to you about the water industry and what is out there for all of us. So first and foremost, if you see this picture right here, everybody just thinks, hey, water's right here and it's available for us to drink. But there's a lot more in the background that goes into it. And to get where I am today as superintendent for Clinton, Iowa American Water, I am a grad of Fulton High School. I went to the University of Iowa. I got my bachelor's degree in environmental technology as well as geographical information sciences. So I've been running around this industry for about 14 years. I've gone to East Coast and West Coast. I've been to California, Georgia, New Jersey, California, or I already said California, Kansas, New York, and Missouri. So within this industry, we are considered essential workers. And so that is a job that is needed anywhere and everywhere. So one thing that I've always enjoyed about my job is I do touch the lives of every citizen of Clinton every day with what I do. So I know this is a fairly early stage for anybody to think about what they want to do for a career down the road, but this is something that hits every aspect of our lives. And I know and I get excited for what I do every day, and I don't regret a single moment of what job I picked and the career that I'm in today. But before we go into what I do every day, it's good to know where we came from and where we are today and what we've done to make our lives that much better. So if you think about it, the water industry itself, well, if anybody looks at this picture here, well, this is where we could get our water from. Be it runoff from lakes, you get streams, you got aquifers, you got oceans, we got rainwater, we got all these opportunities here that we sit in front of us. And we're thinking, okay, this is great. I can just grab water wherever. Well, that's not always the case. And so some people in the early 1900s during the Industrial Revolution thought, hey, I can just grab water wherever I want, do what I want with it, and discharge it back in the ocean. We're going to be fine. So that's where my job comes into play. So if we're going to do a quick brief history, so hopefully I keep everybody intrigued, and we'll as long as I know where we're coming from, we know where we're going to go. So let's look back in the early 1900s. If we're going to start back at this job and what it really entailed, when I talked about the Industrial Revolution, we're talking like in the 1900s, people were just pulling water out of lakes, reservoirs, rivers, and just using for wherever they wanted. And by that time, we understood a lot more about the bacteria in the water and how it could be harmful to our bodies. And so knowing that, well, there's no regulation set in place, so people were just putting whatever they wanted back into the river. So if you guys see these pictures right here, in 1969, this river caught on fire due to the amount of pollutants in the water. And this right here was a catalyst to start that groundwater control. I don't know if anybody actually knows this, and maybe Chad, this is something for you as a teacher if you wanted to ever look this up a little bit further. This is the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio. And so this was the spur to start regulations and enact those in order to make sure that we are going to have potable drinking water, something that is safe for you to drink, And those people that are going to discharge that water, so what do you do after you're done with that water? Well, you got to put it back into those lakes and reservoirs. So now we're looking at this to safeguard those discharges back in that water. And then also there was a lot of concerns in New Orleans because it's a big shipping area. In 1972, the Federal Water Pollution Control Act came into play. And this is where now we have the Safe Drinking Water Act. I know this goes into very, very large detail, but this is something, my job, that I deal with and I check every day. So with the EPA, these set national standards, require public monitoring and reporting to you as the citizen of what you're drinking, and make sure you have safe water to drink, and it's uniform across the United States. So as I said, I've been to California, Georgia, New York. I've been all over. Those standards are the same. So I can take my job, my career, I can go anywhere in the United States, and I will have a job available to me because those standards are all the same. So this goes along the lines of what we ingest and what we take care of ourselves. So that's the industry specifically at the moment I'm in. However, the other side of the coin here is the Clean Water Act. So you talk about the Clean Water Act, this is actually talking to discharges and people who put water back into the river. So the one that you said that you saw the pictures prior of water just catching on fire. Well, there was no limits, or there's no backups or any fines that were put in place for those people that were polluting our waters. Well, this is a natural resource, but it's a limited natural resource, and we got to protect that. And so what I do, and I am a steward of the environment, and I protect that environment by adhering to the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act. And with that, this created career paths within the water industry that are very diverse. So, from this picture alone just shows you, that's what, 10 different industries or divisions within the water and wastewater treatment facilities that you could do. If you love chemistry, if you love biology, if you love working with your hands, you want to be a mechanic, you want to treat water, you want to be an engineer, you love drawing, if you just love being with people and interacting with your customers, this is definitely the industry for you to be in, because you touch everything. No day is ever mundane. I think I have a plan of attack every day, but at the same time, it always changes. So this to me has just been a fun industry. I've touched every piece of this job, and I really enjoy what I do. So with those jobs and the importance in showing that we are essential workers in what we do, now I'm going to get into kind of what I do and why it's important. So hopefully everybody's seen this at some point, understanding the water cycle. So within my job, I got to find out, where's my source of water coming from, and especially in Clinton. So where am I getting it from? Am I getting it from the oceans? What kind of fresh water do I have? Is it ready for me to drink? Well, for the most part, it's not. If we think about what we're actually really drinking, that fresh water, let's look at this pie chart I have here. That little more of a greenish hue that you have there, that's seawater. 97% of our total water in the world is seawater, and that's considered not drinkable. The other 2.5% is frozen water. That's something that's in glaciers that's not readily available or easy for us to consume. So what I focus on, 0.5% of the total water in the world that is available for me to consume. So that is going to specify to aquifers, rainfall, natural lakes, reservoirs, and rivers. Well, okay, I'm tapping now into this resource. What do I have, or who are my consumers? Well, that's you as a resident. If we're going to talk about you as a resident, how much water does one person consume in one day? And by estimates, every day for what you do, from washing clothes, taking a shower, using the restroom, cleaning your food and prepping, or even just consumption of that water itself, that takes about 80 to 100 gallons per day per person. So if I want to give you a number here in Clinton, so we got 26,000 roughly residents that live here. I supply about roughly 2.5 to 3 million gallons of water a day to the citizens of Clinton. So if you think about in the large scheme of things, that's a lot of water that I serve to the customers of Clinton every day. But the biggest thing for me is I got to make sure that's something safe for you to drink. So that's where American Water comes into play. I know a lot of you might know and understand, well, doesn't this normally apply to cities? Well, cities do provide this service, but I'm also in the private side of this industry. So we do take care of water and wastewater. So anything you ingest, as well as what's getting discharged outside after that, or what you flush down the toilet or goes down the drain, American Water is one of those providers that can help with that situation. So this is definitely right here. I'm just kind of giving you an understanding that I don't think this is anything that anybody would think would be wonderful to drink. I know it might be cold, might quench your thirst, but that doesn't look pretty appetizing, does it? So if we got to get into our reservoir, our lake, our treatment, this is what I take care of and what is set in place to go from that lake, that reservoir, that well, all the way to the tap in your home. So I take that water that came from that lake that might not look so good. I take that and now I got to treat it. So that's going to be this side of it right here. These pictures are actually from my time when I was in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And so this is called a lime softening facility. So if you see that picture far on the left, that is actually our treatment process to soften the water and settle out all those solids so that they go down the bottom. And then I can pull all those out. And then the ones to the middle and to the right are now after they've settled out and separated. So once that's done and taken care of, now I'm gotten to a good point where I can start treating this. So now, once that's gone to that certain point, I still have to meet those EPA standards that they're talking about. And with that, I now have these filter beds. They call them filter beds because they look like this. So if you see that anthracite, sand, gravel, that is us kind of creating a natural filtration piece like you would see in nature. And we are making that mechanical so that we can use it to our advantage and use it at a better rate instead of the natural filtration the earth does itself. So with that, after we've gone through that process and now I need to make sure it's safe for you to drink, well, I might have gotten all that sediment out, so aesthetically it looks great. But now I'm at the point where, well, I got to do some checks and balances. I need to get in the lab. So as I was talking earlier, the biology, the chemistry, all of that comes into play here now. Now I'm going to be disinfecting your water. I got to make sure that you guys don't get sick when you drink this water. Once that's done, I got certain items that I got to take care of. I got to make sure there's no Legionella, enteroviruses, coliform, E. coli. You know, that's things where people with weak immune systems are now have problems. You know, elderly, children, infants. I got to make sure everybody is safe. I'm not just taking care of one person. You know, I told you there's 26,000 people in the city of Clinton. I am in charge of the safeguarding every single resident in this city. So with that, the DNR, the EPA required that I take care of this disinfection requirement. So with that, after I've done all I needed to do to make sure I'm compliant, that I have disinfection requirements, I have these large pumps that now I'm putting out into our system. This one right here, these pictures are actually from our Davenport location, and these are very big pumps. So if I were going to, how I told you, there is roughly 2 to 2.5 million gallons a day I send to the city of Clinton. Well, these pumps are rated for Davenport pumpage, which they can send up to 30 million gallons a day of water to the citizens of Davenport and Bettendorf. So this also opens another can, as I told you earlier, those 10 jobs and the dissection of what the water industry does. I need people to be able to work on these pumps, to work on these motors. So this entails a lot of items for me to move forward with and be able to help the residents and make sure they always have water at their home and at their tap. And so this last one here, I'm going to show you kind of the reservoir that we have. This one's in Davenport. That actually will hold 1 million gallons of water a day. And so with that, we got to make sure that's disinfected, ready to go, and that people always have consistent pressure in their system so that they always are running and having water. So if you understand this, I know I kind of ran through this fast. I know we got a small time frame here, but all of these things got to work together in unison and consistently without fail. And with that, this is where my job comes into play. And as the superintendent, I got to coordinate these jobs with all of my staff, be it someone in the operations, someone in my distribution system who's collecting that water and making sure it's going to the residents properly, or talking to my lab and making sure the lab is taking care of all my water quality requirements. And then same with collections and making sure all my lift stations working so you get no sewer backup in the basement. We do have electricians and mechanics. We do make sure that any pre-treatment industrial with ADM being here, that we take care of that and that they are discharging properly and not above limits to where there's going to be a problem with the environment. So what I do and what I take care of, there's a huge facet of jobs in the industry that we do. I know I kind of ran through this really fast, but I wanted to kind of make this an open forum for you to, because within my job itself, yes, I'm in charge of the water treatment and the water system itself, but I also do wastewater. I've done storm water management. So this is something that working within the city and having those partners, I talk to customers every day. I am interacting with those people day in and day out and making sure that they are safeguarding this job. I didn't really put up anything associated to what those careers, the job titles and how much they specifically make. So as just more of an FYI, you could actually come out of high school and actually get a job in this industry. All you would need is get a certification in water treatment or wastewater treatment and go from there and then work your way up. I told you I've been in this industry for 14 years. I started as a frontline operator, and I was digging holes. I worked with backhoes. I was doing a lot of other items like that. But I worked up my certifications. I continued on my graduate degree, but then I got an opportunity to move up within this industry. And so this is where I sit. And within 7 years, I was actually running an entire district. So this is kind of a lot to throw at you guys all at once, but the water industry is never going away. Everybody's going to always need water. You know that, everybody doesn't think about from your tap what goes into making sure that water is safe or what water is leaving your home and how that's treated before you leave. We're always going to be here. We're always going to need water. And if you want to be a steward for the environment and like working in the field, this is the job for you. So I appreciate you guys' time. I'm going to leave this up right here, but I'll definitely open up to questions. If we want to go back to a certain slide and talk through a few more things, I would be glad to.
Any questions for guys? Somebody has a question about bottled water.
Sure. Just want my 2 cents on it, or do you got to
Well, I think, Kyle, are you asking, do they make their bottled water, or is that what your question is? Yeah, he's asking if you guys make that, or if that's just other private companies.
We do not make water for bottling, but we do provide water to those entities that do bottle water. If there is a lot of federal regulations coming down to show where your water is actually coming from when it comes to the bottled water, just to give you kind of an understanding, the price point associated to my water versus a bottle of water, our standards are just the same, if not more rigorous than the bottled water that you're getting from the store. But my water costs a penny a gallon. Their water costs, what'd you say, $1 for just a pint. So that is a 300 to 500% markup. And with federal regulations coming down, showing where your water came from, approximately 30 to 40% of that water is actually municipal water that has been slightly treated for aesthetic purposes and bottled for your consumption. So I agree that bottled water is nice and convenient, but is it truly a long-term item that that we should look into? I don't think it's in everybody's favor to continue to pay rates like that when you can have a Camelback or your own water to bring with you.
Yeah, I would agree. Plus all the environmental plastics that are then being polluted from all those water bottles.
Yes, I agree.
Does it ever get empty?
Yeah.
One of my students is asking like the big water towers, if they ever get near empty.
No, we actually use those towers themselves. So in Clinton, we got 4 tanks in our system. So those I have consistently sitting on a tank level, and a SCADA system, which is called a system data acquisition. So those are actually used. So basically, it's a computer front right there that will tell my system when to turn on and turn off pumps. So I need to always have consistent water in my system at a certain pressure, because in addition to just providing residents with water at sufficient pressure, I also am required to make sure that I have fire suppression requirements met as well. And so those, in order to do that, and the hydrology of those tanks, I need to make sure that I'm constantly at a certain level in my tank. So I let it go up and down, you know, depending on the size of the tank. A good 10, 15 feet will drop and go up and down, but I can never let it go underneath a certain footage. Otherwise, I have concerns, and then I need to bring out more staff, and we will maintain that system. But as I said earlier, we do have multiple tanks in the system, so I can actually run off a different tank if I needed to, if this one's having problems. But no, we do not let those run dry, and those are part of our safeguards in our system.
Good to know. Rowan, what's your question?
So, do you guys like have any way to be anyone who like taste test water or something to make sure it's like 100% clean or something? Like, how do you know?
Okay, I got part of that. So something about testing the water and make sure it's clean. But could you clarify one more time?
He was kind of asking if there's taste testers and how do you know? And my guess is going to be is like a lot of that stuff is in the lab based on the biology and the chemistry of making sure that it meets those criteria, correct?
Yes. So in the lab itself, we do talk about aesthetic qualities. So there's parameters that already are set in place to make sure I take care of those. There's primary and secondary parameters or maximum goals I'm able to reach. And so with that, I can make sure that, let's say iron and manganese, you can actually taste and see that. And so when they call them aesthetics, so that's how they look and how they taste. With disinfection, well, I can make sure to get away from that and what's in my system. And so some of the parameters that I have to test for every year based on my DNR and EPA permits, well, I make sure that those are actually in line with their allowable limits. And then with that, that makes sure that I can disinfect. I make sure that aesthetically this is more pleasing to your palate and that it's going to taste fine. And of course, part of the aesthetics is also the looks of it. So you got to make sure your water is nice and clear. So those are some of the things we can constantly have to juggle. And one good item for Clinton is we are considered well water. So I'm not pulling water from the river like Davenport, but they treat it a little bit differently to make sure it's taken care of. And so one really good piece for us in Clinton is that we have well water. So that's actually already going to be very aesthetically pleasing for all of us.
Very good. Alexis, what's your question?
Do they get like,
She's asking if you guys do like the way, I'm assuming yes, the water for like the swimming pools, like the Clinton Municipal Pool.
Yes, we provide the water to fill, but those standards for constant or keeping that water at a certain level is different. So once we provide the water to fill those pools, it's on the city to maintain certain chlorine levels because there's people actually swimming in them and you got other factors going in there. So they maintain it at a different standard.
So you guys provide the water and then it's up to them to meet the standards to keep open after that.
Yep, that's correct.
Gotcha. Kara, what's your question? Someone wanted to ask if you've ever had to pause water to the city due to other factors.
One more time.
They didn't know if he's asking Kyle if there's any like delays, like you had to shut down certain things, like if so you have like sounds like a redundant system because you said you had like 4 tanks.
Mm-hmm.
One wasn't working properly, then you would just pull off the other 3 to make up the difference.
Yes, and in addition to that, let's say if there is some type of leak or something out in the system that breaks, and so now I got water leaking into the street or something. Most every street, if you think about it, every time you see a hydrant, those are connections to our system, and they are looped. So I do have a way to isolate, let's say during that break, right there, I can isolate that section and still feed the rest of our system. So redundancy is key to making sure the system runs continuously and properly. And as you already alluded to, we do have the tanks to make sure that we constantly feed that. So let's say if I do have a break, well, now water is all going to be rushing to that one site. Well, I got to make sure that I do have a buffer, as in all that extra water sitting in those tanks that can go there in the meantime while I am isolating and getting that taken care of so that you guys constantly still have water. So for the most part, you won't see any issues or concerns because I got that buffer to now isolate that part of my system, and everybody else has water.
Okay.
Stay in water, I guess.
Sounds good. Then I guess here's my question that I always kind of had wondered then, since this is the topic. Like you hear like on the news and stuff, water main breaks and then like a boil order. So is that then when you guys come in to replace the break, like then it would be up to the customer to boil the water to make sure that there wasn't being a contaminant from the repair from there to there for a certain amount of time, correct?
That is correct. And kind of to go a little more detail for you, so the DNR has requirements already set in place for us, and we adhere to those wholeheartedly when it comes to any main breaks. So our system is actually based off of pressure. When it comes to wastewater, that's based off of gravity. So that one isn't constantly filled, not constantly under pressure, but our water system is. So if we do have a main break, that's water pushing out of the system. And so as long as we maintain positive pressure, we know there's never going to be anything to get in our system to where we could have a concern or an issue. But then there's those small events where, okay, this is something where I have to isolate this area, and now I'm depressurizing that. And once that's done, that is automatically thrown into the category that I'm going to have to post a boil advisory for these customers in this area to make sure that they're safeguarded. But part of my piece is when we do that, I also will disinfect everything that I've taken care of or pulled out. And once I put anything back in that where that break was, it's disinfected, and we flush that area. And I also grab bacteriological samples to verify that everything is safe for customers to drink. So during that, after I grab those samples, that takes 24 hours for me to read that sample. And once that sample is read after 24 hours, that boil advisory can be lifted. So this is our safeguard to customers to say, yes, you can shower in this water. Just the consumption piece of that water is where it's unknown until after that 24 hours. So that's the DNR's requirement for us to say, hey, you need to boil your water if you're going to cook with it or drink it. And that's the way that we safeguard the customers. And we will lift that advisory as soon as bacteriologicals come back negative. And we've done our due diligence to disinfect and make the system safe once again.
Very good. So you had mentioned, because I know we talked quite a bit here at school and in this class about, hey, I told you that yesterday. You had mentioned you could come like right out of high school with some like certificates and whatnot to kind of get entry level. Is there, like all those aspects, you could kind of do that, or only in certain positions within those like 10 careers would you be able to do that?
No, there's so many aspects of American Water and within a municipal perspective you can go in. So the certifications I'm talking about is for water certifications, wastewater certifications, distribution, and Kirkwood actually offers those classes, and they actually offer a 2-year associate's degree. So if that's something that you're interested in, they do a very good job at giving you those basic skill sets to know that when you get in this industry, you can hit the ground running. And then from there, as I said, I got my bachelor's degree in geographical information sciences. So what GIS is, if people are interested in that, we need people to run maps to GPS our mains, where they're located at. We constantly need to have a fresh amount of bodies. And this industry is when I say this is very old, Like you're thinking like my bosses and my boss's bosses are all baby boomers. And so I knew getting in this industry within the next 10 to 15 years, they're all going to be retiring. And so with that, these jobs and people from where I'm at and below are just going to be moving up this ladder so quick and so fast that there's going to be a huge need for people in this industry. And so with that, you know, coming out of high school, just trying to get an internship with American Water, with the city, you know, you can hit the ground running just with an associate's degree to get your certifications. And the certifications are through the DNR. The DNR can allow you to do that, but you need so much time of experience before you can get those certifications. But cities and municipalities and other places actually give you time to do that and get it taken care of. So if you want to get in this industry right away, it's great. And the other good part, if you think about it, is American Water, and for instance, we actually pay for your schooling if you want to go further on. And so if you want to start in this industry, just hit the ground running in the field and be a front person, you can also work on your bachelor's degree, another associate's, whatever you wanted. This industry needs people, and they're willing to pay for it.
Very good to know. Good to know. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you to
Glad.
Jarrek. Thanks to the students to paying attention. We'll make sure to bring some more of these presentations your way, Mr. Engler. I'm just excited that soon maybe we'll be able to get back into the classroom. But for now, this seems to be working out just fine. All right, sir. Thank you again, Jarrek. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jarrek. I really appreciate it.
All right.
No problem. Glad I could help.
Take care.